The forest Sîn-lēqi-unninni of the mountain, the father of the gods, had decreed the destiny of Gilgamesh. So Gilgamesh dreamed, and Enkidu said, "The meaning of the dream is this. The father of the gods has given you kingship, such is your destiny, everlasting life is not your destiny. Because of this do not be sad at heart, do not be grieved or oppressed. He has given you power to bind and to loose, to be the darkness and the light of mankind. He has given you unexampled supremacy over the people, victory in battle from which no fugitive returns, in forays and assaults from which there is no going back. But do not abuse this power, deal justly with your servants in the palace, deal justly before Shamash." The eyes of Enkidu were full of tears and his heart was sick. He sighed bitterly, and Gilgamesh met his eye and said, "My friend, why do you sigh so bitterly?" But Enkidu opened his mouth and said, "I am weak, my arms have lost their strength, the cry of sorrow sticks in my throat, I am oppressed by idleness." It was then that the Lord Gilgamesh turned his thoughts to the country of the living. On the land of cedars the Lord Gilgamesh reflected. He said to his servant Enkidu, "I have not established my name stamped on bricks as my destiny decreed, therefore I will go to the country where the cedar is felled. I will set up my name in the place where the names of famous men are written, and where no man's name is written yet I will raise a monument to the gods. Because of the evil that is in the land, we will go to the forest and destroy the evil, for in the forest lives Humbaba, whose name is Hugeness, a ferocious giant." But Enkidu sighed bitterly and said, "When I went with the wild beasts ranging through the wilderness I discovered the forest, its length is 10,000 leagues in every direction. Enlil has appointed Humbaba to guard it and armed him in sevenfold terrors, terrible to all flesh is Humbaba. When he roars it is like the torrent of the storm, his breath is like fire, and his jaws are death itself. He guards the cedars so well that when the wild heifer stirs in the forest, though she is 60 leagues distant, he hears her. What man would willingly walk into that country and explore its depths? I tell you, weakness overpowers whoever goes near it. It is not an equal struggle when one fights with Humbaba, he is a great warrior, a battering ram. Gilgamesh, the watchman of the forest, never sleeps." Gilgamesh replied, "Where is the man who can clamber to heaven? Only the gods live forever with glorious Shamash, but as for us men, our days are numbered, our occupations are a breath of wind. How is this? Already you are afraid. I will go first although I am your lord, and you may safely call out, 'Forward, there is nothing to fear.' Then if I fall I leave behind me a name that endures, men will say of me, 'Gilgamesh has fallen in fight with ferocious Humbaba.' Long after the child has been born in my house, they will say it, and remember." Enkidu spoke again to Gilgamesh, "O my lord, if you will enter that country, go first to the hero Shamash, tell the sun god, for the land is his. The country where the cedar is cut belongs to Shamash." Gilgamesh took up a kid, white without spot, and a brown one with it, he held them against his breast, and he carried them into the presence of the sun. He took in his hand his silver scepter and he said to glorious Shamash, "I am going to that country, O Shamash, I am going, my hands supplicate, so let it be well with my soul and bring me back to the key of Uruk. Grant, I beseech, your protection, and let the omen be good." Glorious Shamash answered, "Gilgamesh, you are strong, but what is the country of the living to you? O Shamash, hear me, Shamash, let my voice be heard. Here in the city man dies oppressed at heart, man perishes with despair in his heart. I have looked over the wall and I see the bodies floating on the river, and that will be my lot also. Indeed I know it is so, for whoever is tallest among men cannot reach the heavens, and the greatest cannot encompass the earth. Therefore I would enter that country, because I have not established my name stamped on brick as my destiny decreed. I will go to the country where the cedar is cut. I will set up my name where the names of famous men are written, and where no man's name is written I will raise a monument to the gods." The tears ran down his face and he said, "Alas, it is a long journey that I must take to the land of Humbaba. If this enterprise is not to be accomplished, why did you move me, Shamash, with the restless desire to perform it? How can I succeed if you will not succor me? If I die in that country I will die without rancor, but if I return I will make a glorious offering of gifts and of praise to Shamash. So Shamash accepted the sacrifice of his tears, like the compassionate man he showed him mercy. He appointed strong allies for Gilgamesh, sons of one mother, and stationed them in the mountain caves. The great winds he appointed, the north wind, the whirlwind, the storm and the icy wind, the tempest and the scorching wind. Like vipers, like dragons, like a scorching fire, like a serpent that freezes the heart, a destroying flood and the lightning's fork, such were they, and Gilgamesh rejoiced. He went to the forge and said, I will give orders to the armorers, they shall cast us our weapons while we watch them. So they gave orders to the armorers and the craftsmen sat down in conference. They went into the groves of the plain and cut willow and box wood, they cast for them axes of 90 pounds, and great swords they cast with blades of 60 pounds each one, with pommels and hilts of 30 pounds. They cast for Gilgamesh the axe might of heroes and the bow of Anshan, and Gilgamesh was armed and Enkidu, and the weight of the arms they carried was 30 pounds. The people collected and the councillors in the streets and in the marketplace of Uruk, they came through the gate of 7 bolts and Gilgamesh spoke to them in the marketplace, I, Gilgamesh, go to see that creature of whom such things are spoken, the rumour of whose name fills the world. I will conquer him in his cedar wood and show the strength of the sons of Uruk, all the world shall know of it. I am committed to this enterprise, to climb the mountain, to cut down the cedar, and leave behind me an enduring name. The councillors of Uruk, the great market, answered him, Gilgamesh, you are young, your courage carries you too far, you cannot know what this enterprise means which you plan. We have heard that Humbaba is not like men who die, his weapons are such that none can stand against them, the forest stretches for 10,000 leagues in every direction, who would willingly go down to explore its depths? As for Humbaba, when he roars it is like the torrent of the storm, his breath is like fire and his jaws are death itself. Why do you crave to do this thing, Gilgamesh? It is no equal struggle when one fights with Humbaba, that battering ram. When he heard these words of the councillors, Gilgamesh looked at his friend and laughed. How shall I answer them? Shall I say I am afraid of Humbaba, I will sit at home all the rest of my days? Then Gilgamesh opened his mouth again and said to Enkidu, my friend, let us go to the great palace, to Igalma, and stand before Ninsun the queen. Ninsun is wise with deep knowledge, she will give us counsel for the road we must go. They took each other by the hand as they went to Igalma, and they went to Ninsun the great queen. Gilgamesh approached, he entered the palace and spoke to Ninsun. Ninsun, will you listen to me? I have a long journey to go, to the land of Humbaba, I must travel an unknown road and fight a strange battle. From the day I go until I return, till I reach the cedar forest and destroy the evil which Shamash abhors, pray for me to Shamash. Ninsun went into her room, she put on a dress becoming to her body, she put on jewels to make her breast beautiful, she placed a tiara on her head and her skirts swept the ground. Then she went up to the altar of the sun, standing upon the roof of the palace, she burnt incense and lifted her arms to Shamash as the smoke ascended. O Shamash, why did you give this restless heart to Gilgamesh, my son, why did you give it? You have moved him and now he sets out on a long journey to the land of Humbaba, to travel an unknown road and fight a strange battle. Therefore from the day that he goes till the day he returns, until he reaches the cedar forest, until he kills Humbaba and destroys the evil thing which you, Shamash, abhor, do not forget him, but let the dawn, Aya, your dear bride, remind you always, and when day is done give him to the watchman of the night to keep him from harm. Then Ninsun the mother of Gilgamesh extinguished the incense, and she called to Enkidu with this exhortation, Strong Enkidu, you are not the child of my body, but I will receive you as my adopted son. You are my other child, like the foundlings they bring to the temple. Serve Gilgamesh as a foundling serves the temple and the priestess who reared him. In the presence of my women, my votaries and hierophants, I declare it." Then she placed the amulet for a pledge round his neck, and she said to him, "I entrust my son to you, bring him back to me safely." And now they brought to them the weapons, they put in their hands the great swords in their golden scabbards, and the bow and the quiver. Gilgamesh took the axe, he slung the quiver from his shoulder, and the bow of Anshan, and buckled the sword to his belt, and so they were armed and ready for the journey. Now all the people came and pressed on them and said, "When will you return to the city?" The counselors blessed Gilgamesh and warned him, "Do not trust too much in your own strength, be watchful, restrain your blows at first. The one who goes in front protects his companion, the good guide who knows the way guards his friend. Let Enkidu lead the way, he knows the road to the forest, he has seen Humbaba and is experienced in battles, let him press first into the passes, let him be watchful and look to himself. Let Enkidu protect his friend, and guard his companion, and bring him safe through the pitfalls of the road. We, the counselors of Uruk, entrust our king to you, O Enkidu, bring him back safely to us." Again to Gilgamesh they said, "May Shamash give you your heart's desire, may he let you see with your eyes the thing accomplished which your lips have spoken, may he open a path for you where it is blocked, and a road for your feet to tread. May he open the mountains for your crossing, and may the night time bring you the blessings of night, and Lagulbanda, your guardian god, stand beside you for victory. May you have victory in the battle as though you fought with a child. Wash your feet in the river of Humbaba to which you are journeying, in the evening dig a well, and let there always be pure water in your water skin. Offer cold water to Shamash, and do not forget Lagulbanda." Then Enkidu opened his mouth and said, "Forward, there is nothing to fear. Follow me, for I know the place where Humbaba lives and the paths where he walks. Let the counselors go back. Here is no cause for fear." When the counselors heard this they sped the hero on his way. "Go, Gilgamesh, may your guardian god protect you on the road and bring you safely back to the key of Uruk." After 20 leagues they broke their fast, after another 30 leagues they stopped for the night. 50 leagues they walked in one day, in 3 days they had walked as much as a journey of a month and 2 weeks. They crossed 7 mountains before they came to the gate of the forest. Then Enkidu called out to Gilgamesh, "Do not go down into the forest, when I opened the gate my hand lost its strength." Gilgamesh answered him, "Dear friend, do not speak like a coward. Have we got the better of so many dangers and traveled so far, to turn back at last? You, who are tried in wars and battles, hold close to me now and you will feel no fear of death, keep beside me and your weakness will pass, the trembling will leave your hand. Would my friend rather stay behind? No, we will go down together into the heart of the forest. Let your courage be roused by the battle to come, forget death and follow me, a man resolute in action, but one who is not foolhardy. When 2 go together each will protect himself and shield his companion, and if they fall they leave an enduring name." Together they went down into the forest and they came to the green mountain. There they stood still, they were struck dumb, they stood still and gazed at the forest. They saw the height of the cedar, they saw the way into the forest and the track where Humbaba was used to walk. The way was broad and the going was good. They gazed at the mountain of cedars, the dwelling place of the gods and the throne of Ishtar. The hugeness of the cedar rose in front of the mountain, its shade was beautiful, full of comfort, mountain and glade were green with brushwood. There Gilgamesh dug a well before the setting sun. He went up the mountain and poured out fine meal on the ground and said, "O mountain, dwelling of the gods, bring me a favorable dream." Then they took each other by the hand and lay down to sleep, and sleep that flows from the night lapped over them. Gilgamesh dreamed, and at midnight sleep left him, and he told his dream to his friend. Enkidu, what was it that woke me if you did not? My friend, I have dreamed a dream. Get up, look at the mountain precipice. The sleep that the gods sent me is broken. Ah, my friend, what a dream I have had. Terror and confusion, I seized hold of a wild bull in the wilderness. It bellowed and beat up the dust till the whole sky was dark, my arm was seized and my tongue bitten. I fell back on my knee, then someone refreshed me with water from his water skin. Enkidu said, Dear friend, the god to whom we are traveling is no wild bull, though his form is mysterious. That wild bull which you saw is Shamash the protector, in our moment of peril he will take our hands. The one who gave water from his water skin, that is your own god who cares for your good name, your ʻɡɪlɡəmɛʃ. United with him, together we will accomplish a work the fame of which will never die. Gilgamesh said, I dreamed again. We stood in a deep gorge of the mountain, and beside it we too were like the smallest of swamp flies, and suddenly the mountain fell, it struck me and caught my feet from under me. Then came an intolerable light blazing out, and in it was one whose grace and whose beauty were greater than the beauty of this world. He pulled me out from under the mountain, he gave me water to drink and my heart was comforted, and he set my feet on the ground. Then Enkidu the child of the plains said, Let us go down from the mountain and talk this thing over together. He said to Gilgamesh the young god, Your dream is good, your dream is excellent, the mountain which you saw is Humbaba. Now, surely, we will seize and kill him, and throw his body down as the mountain fell on the plain. The next day after 20 leagues they broke their fast, and after another 30 they stopped for the night. They dug a well before the sun had set and Gilgamesh ascended the mountain. He poured out fine meal on the ground and said, O mountain, dwelling of the gods, send a dream for Enkidu, make him a favorable dream. The mountain fashioned a dream for Enkidu, it came, an ominous dream, a cold shower passed over him, it caused him to cower like the mountain barley under a storm of rain. But Gilgamesh sat with his chin on his knees till the sleep which flows over all mankind lapped over him. Then, at midnight, sleep left him, he got up and said to his friend, Did you call me, or why did I wake? Did you touch me, or why am I terrified? Did not some god pass by, for my limbs are numb with fear? My friend, I saw a third dream and this dream was altogether frightful. The heavens roared and the earth roared again, daylight failed and darkness fell, lightnings flashed, fire blazed out, the clouds lowered, they rained down death. Then the brightness departed, the fire went out, and all was turned to ashes fallen about us. Let us go down from the mountain and talk this over, and consider what we should do. When they had come down from the mountain Gilgamesh seized the axe in his hand, he felled the cedar. When Humbaba heard the noise far off he was enraged, he cried out, Who is this that has violated my woods and cut down my cedar? But glorious Shamash called to them out of heaven, Go forward, do not be afraid. But now Gilgamesh was overcome by weakness, for sleep had seized him suddenly, a profound sleep held him, he lay on the ground, stretched out speechless, as though in a dream. When Enkidu touched him he did not rise, when he spoke to him he did not reply. O Gilgamesh, lord of the plain of Kalab, the world grows dark, the shadows have spread over it, now is the glimmer of dusk. Shamash has departed, his bright head is quenched in the bosom of his mother Ningal. O Gilgamesh, how long will you lie like this, asleep? Never let the mother who gave you birth be forced in mourning into the city square. At length Gilgamesh heard him, he put on his breastplate, the voice of heroes, of 30 shekels weight, he put it on as though it had been a light garment that he carried, and it covered him altogether. He straddled the earth like a bull that snuffs the ground and his teeth were clenched. By the life of my mother Ninsun who gave me birth, and by the life of my father, divine ʻɡɪlɡəmɛʃ, let me live to be the wonder of my mother, as when she nursed me on her lap. A second time he said to him, By the life of Ninsun my mother who gave me birth, and by the life of my father, divine Лагубанда, until we have fought this man, if man he is, this god, if God he is, the way that I took to the country of the living will not turn back to the city. Then Enkidu, the faithful companion, pleaded, answering him, O my lord, you do not know this monster, and that is the reason you are not afraid. I who know him, I am terrified. His teeth are dragon's fangs, his countenance is like a lion, his charge is the rushing of the flood, with his look he crushes alike the trees of the forest and reeds in the swamp. O my lord, you may go on if you choose into this land, but I will go back to the city. I will tell the lady your mother all your glorious deeds till she shouts for joy, and then I will tell the death that followed till she weeps for bitterness. But Gilgamesh said, Immolation and sacrifice are not yet for me, the boat of the dead shall not go down, nor the 3-ply cloth be cut for my shrouding. Not yet will my people be desolate, nor the pyre be lit in my house and my dwelling burnt on the fire. Today, give me your aid and you shall have mine, what then can go amiss with us two? All living creatures born of the flesh shall sit at last in the boat of the west, and when it sinks, when the boat of Magellan sinks, they are gone, but we shall go forward and fix our eyes on this monster. If your heart is fearful, throw away fear, if there is terror in it, throw away terror. Take your axe in your hand and attack. He who leaves the fight unfinished is not at peace. Humbaba came out from his strong house of cedar. Then Enkidu called out, O Gilgamesh, remember now your boasts in Uruk. Forward, attack, son of Uruk, there is nothing to fear. When he heard these words his courage rallied, he answered, Make haste, close in, if the watchman is there do not let him escape to the woods where he will vanish. He has put on the first of his 7 splendors but not, yet the other 6, let us trap him before he is armed. Like a raging wild bull he snuffed the ground, the watchman of the woods turned full of threatenings, he cried out. Humbaba came from his strong house of cedar. He nodded his head and shook it, menacing Gilgamesh, and on him he fastened his eye, the eye of death. Then Gilgamesh called to Shamash and his tears were flowing, O glorious Shamash, I have followed the road you commanded, but now if you send no succor how shall I escape? Glorious Shamash heard his prayer and he summoned the great wind, the north wind, the whirlwind, the storm and the icy wind, the tempest and the scorching wind. They came like dragons, like a scorching fire, like a serpent that freezes the heart, a destroying flood and the lightning's fork. The 8 winds rose up against Humbaba, they beat against his eyes, he was gripped, unable to go forward or back. Gilgamesh shouted, By the life of Ninsun my mother and divine Лагубанда my father, in the country of the living, in this land I have discovered your dwelling, my weak arms and my small weapons I have brought to this land against you, and now I will enter your house. So he felled the first cedar and they cut the branches and laid them at the foot of the mountain. At the first stroke Humbaba blazed out, but still they advanced. They felled 7 cedars and cut and bound the branches and laid them at the foot of the mountain, and 7 times Humbaba loosed his glory on them. As the 7th blaze died out they reached his lair. He slapped his thigh in scorn. He approached like a noble wild bull roped on the mountain, a warrior whose elbows are bound together. The tears started to his eyes and he was pale. Gilgamesh, let me speak. I have never known a mother, no, nor a father who reared me. I was born of the mountain, he reared me, and Enlil made me the keeper of this forest. Let me go free, Gilgamesh, and I will be your servant, you shall be my lord, all the trees of the forest that I tended on the mountain shall be yours. I will cut them down and build you a palace. He took him by the hand and led him to his house, so that the heart of Gilgamesh was moved with compassion. He swore by the heavenly life, by the earthly life, by the underworld itself, O Enkidu, should not the snared bird return to its nest and the captive man return to his mother's arms? Enkidu answered, The strongest of men will fall to fate if he has no judgment. Nomtar, the evil fate that knows no distinction between men, will devour him. If the snared bird returns to its nest, if the captive man returns to his mother's arms, then you, my friend, will never return to the city where the mother is waiting who gave you birth. He will bar the mountain road against you, and make the pathways impassable. Humbaba said, Enkidu, what you have spoken is evil, you, a hireling, dependent for your bread. In envy and for fear of a rival you have spoken evil words. Enkidu said, do not listen, Gilgamesh, this Humbaba must die. Kill Humbaba first and his servants after. But Gilgamesh said, if we touch him the blaze and the glory of light will be put out in confusion, the glory and glamour will vanish, its rays will be quenched. Enkidu said to Gilgamesh, not so, my friend. First entrap the bird, and where shall the chicks run then? Afterwards we can search out the glory and the glamour, when the chicks run distracted through the grass. Gilgamesh listened to the word of his companion, he took the axe in his hand, he drew the sword from his belt, and he struck Humbaba with a thrust of the sword to the neck, and Enkidu his comrade struck the second blow. At the third blow Humbaba fell. Then there followed confusion, for this was the guardian of the forest whom they had felled to the ground. For as far as 2 leagues the cedars shivered when Enkidu felled the watcher of the forest, he at whose voice Hermon and Lebanon used to tremble. Now the mountains were moved and all the hills, for the guardian of the forest was killed. They attacked the cedars, the 7 splendors of Humbaba were extinguished. So they pressed on into the forest bearing the sword of 8 talents. They uncovered the sacred dwellings of the Anunnaki, and while Gilgamesh felled the first of the trees of the forest, Enkidu cleared their roots as far as the banks of Euphrates. They set Humbaba before the gods, before Enlil, they kissed the ground and dropped the shroud and set the head before him. When he saw the head of Humbaba, Enlil raged at them. Why did you do this thing? From henceforth may the fire be on your faces, may it eat the bread that you eat, may it drink where you drink. Then Enlil took again the blaze and the 7 splendors that had been Humbaba's, he gave the first to the river, and he gave to the lion, to the stone of execration, to the mountain and to the dreaded daughter of the queen of hell. O Gilgamesh, king and conqueror of the dreadful blaze, wild bull who plunders the mountain, who crosses the sea, glory to him, and from the brave the greater glory is Enki's.